believe in the ripple effect.
What's up? Another episode of Ripple Effect Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Ricardo Varandas, also known as Ricky Varandas, and a great episode for you today. A returning guest and someone I'm very proud to call a friend, possibly the most famous doctor on the planet. Dr. Peter McCullough returns to the Ripple Effect Podcast. We reflect a little bit on past events. We talk about some current events and also some future events and what we think the future holds. It's a great discussion. As always, Dr. Peter McCullough always brings the fire, always brings the energy and information. So I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy this conversation. I'll put links to his Substack, his Twitter account, because now he's back on Twitter, and also his website and anything else I can find that I think is important. I'll put those links in the show description. Now it's time to remind you that this is a value for value show. If you get some value out of this show or any of the shows that I bring to you, please consider giving some value back. Of course, if you can't financially support the show, don't worry about it. This is a value for value show, but there's other ways you can support the show and give some value back if you can't financially do so. You can rate the show, review the show, subscribe to the show on whatever video or audio platform you watch or listen to the Ripple Effect Podcast. But if you can support the show financially, there's a couple ways you can do so. We have a PayPal account if you want to send a one-time donation. We have a Patreon page if you want to support us monthly, and everybody who does gets to be a part of our Patreon podcast, which is a podcast I do with my Patreon supporters. We talk, we chat, then I release it as an episode. So it's a great way of supporting the show and also getting on the show. And you don't have to donate a lot. You can donate as little as $1 a month, and that will give you access to the Patreon podcast. And also, if a small percentage of the listeners of the podcast donated as little as $1 a month, it would help achieve my goal of eventually doing this show full time. So as little as $1 a month goes a long way. No donation is too little. So whatever you can afford is very much appreciated. Also, other ways of supporting the show is checking out our merch store. Links, of course, are on my website, therippleeffectpodcast.com, or in the show description. Or you can go directly to the merch store by going to the Ripple Effect Podcast merch.com. And we have hoodies, t-shirts, all types of stuff, mugs, cups, tank tops. And if you watch Ripple Effect Podcast, you'll see me sporting a lot of these hoodies, t-shirts, and mugs during the episode. So if you like the stuff you see in the videos, please check out the rippleeffectpodcast.com or the Ripple Effect Podcast merch.com and browse around. Hopefully you'll find something you like. Couple other ways of supporting the show is watching the Ripple Effect Podcast on Rockfin. It is a video platform, and they do have apps in the App Store, so check it out. But it's a video platform that lets you tip the content creator. So if you're watching a video you like, you can tip that episode. And Rockfin also pays the content creators just for you streaming the episode. So just by watching the shows on Rockfin, you're helping those content creators. So definitely check out Rockfin. I also have a crypto wallet. You can send Bitcoin or Ethereum, and you can find those addresses on my website. And I don't believe anybody has sent me Ethereum or Bitcoin yet. So if you want to be the first to send me a one-time donation of crypto, please check out rippleeffectpodcast.com. Also have a Venmo account there. And then you can also find links to my music if you want to stream or download the intro music. It's my solo music project called Theory 6. The song's called The Ripple Effect, and you can find it anywhere you can get digital downloads. And you can also find the link on my website, rippleeffectpodcast.com. Last but not least, I have a couple of sponsors. Of course, Content Safe. They're the ones who helped me when I got kicked off YouTube, get my shows on all the video platforms I'm on now, like Band.video and Rumble and Rockfin and BitChute and all the places you can find the Ripple Effect podcast. They have saved me tons of time and tons of stress by letting me upload my shows onto one platform and then syncing all my channels together. So if you're a content creator, if you're a streamer, if you're a podcaster, check out Content Safe. Talk to Matt, let him know you're a listener of the show, and he'll definitely hook you up. Also, check out the University of Reason and the very popular autonomy courses, which was created and founded by Richard Grove, the host of Grand Theft World. He created these courses and the University of Reason to help people find their potential, to help connect people in a community, help you learn the skills that you're not taught in school. And a lot of people have graduated from it and said nothing but great things, including Matt from Content Safe. So if you're at a crossroads in life, or you're just looking to change careers, you're not happy with what you're doing or unhappy with the road that you're going down, check out the University of Reason. You can sign up, change your life, help yourself, and help the Ripple Effect podcast at the same time. The other sponsor, one of my favorites, is Element Electrolyte Drink Mix, and it is just packets of electrolytes that you put in your water. They taste awesome. They don't knock you out of fasting. If you're fasting, they don't knock you out of ketosis if you're doing keto. And it's all premium ingredients, only the things you need, no artificial anything. It was created by Rob Wolf, who is one of the most respected people in the health and nutrition community. And he's done documentaries, books. He's been a guest on my show and many other shows much larger than mine. And he is the founder and creator of Element Electrolytes. And a lot of issues we're dealing with, health issues like fatigue, muscle soreness, headaches, brain fog, can be caused by dehydration. And especially during the winter when we're not drinking as much, or if you're fasting or doing keto and you're not eating as much, it's much harder to stay hydrated. And he created Element Electrolytes to help with that, because most things on the market are either full of sugar and carbs or filled with some cheap artificial sweeteners. So Rob realized that many of our hydration options aren't good and they're full of stuff we don't need. So he created Element Electrolytes. You get only the things you need. It's sweetened with stevia, which is just a natural plant, a natural sweetener. They also now offer chocolate flavors. So if you want to add some electrolytes to your coffee or a hot drink, it's a great way of staying hydrated while you're drinking your coffee. And if you use the link on my website or in the show description, you'll get a free gift with every purchase, and you'll contribute to supporting the Ripple Effect podcast. And the cool thing about the link is if you use the link just once for 12 months, every time you purchase Element, you'll contribute to the Ripple Effect podcast, and I'll get a little bit of commission. That's it, guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, everybody who has contributed, everybody who's purchased some merch, everybody who has sent me money on PayPal or sign up for my Patreon page and send me some amazing messages. I really, really, really appreciate it. Like I keep telling you guys, no donation is too little. Even if you just sign up for $1 a month on Patreon, it's very much appreciated. But also don't forget, if you can't financially support the show, you can give plenty of value just by sharing, reviewing, telling people about the Ripple Effect podcast. And that does go a long way and help fight against the algorithms that are suppressing shows like mine and guests like the one I'm having on today, Dr. Peter McCullough. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.
There he is.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad. I know you're a busy man, especially this time of year, I'm sure.
Yeah, you got a hold of me through Twitter. That means my Twitter is back.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah. Well, I know some people have been messing up just Eastern time, Central time, with the chaotic holidays around the corner. People have been all over the place. So I'm like, oh, maybe you got the time wrong. Maybe,
No, I'm working from Colorado, so I'm on mountain time, and I've already messed up 2 or 3 today, and I'm on vacation. That's the problem. So
okay, I won't take up too much of your time. You need some vacay, because you've been killing it. You've been doing a lot of interviews. You've been doing a lot of stuff. And one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because I can't thank you enough for all the work that you've invested in this fight. And I think so many people have. I keep referring to it as it was trauma. We as a society or as a planet, we dealt with trauma all together. That we're all traumatized. We dealt the same trauma, and a lot of people, they cope with trauma by they try to store it in their subconscious or put it behind them and move on. And I know that's kind of the easy thing to do, would be just, hey, let's forget about 2020, let's forget about 2021, let's forget about, all the things that we had to deal with. But if we do that, then justice will never be served. And people like you and Del Bigtree and all the other amazing people I've had on throughout the last couple of years, who keep pounding at this drum and keep making sure that somebody is accountable for what's going on. I mean, and all the things you've risked, because you were, you're one of the most published doctors in the world. You had a great resume and great reputation, and you to do what was right, you sacrificed a lot of that, and you fought back against propaganda, being kicked off Twitter, not being able to defend yourself, being censored on so many different platforms. And your whole life was turned upside down, I'm sure. And but I guess, would you want it any other way? Would you do anything differently?
I wouldn't do it any other way. This was a giant check on integrity, and COVID-19 crisis separated the men from the boys. So many times people have asked me, Dr. McCullough, what is it about you? And I said, well, I was already, one of the top people in academic medicine. I just applied all my skills and scholarship towards the illness, learned how to treat it, published my results, demonstrated it worked, collaborated all over the world. By invitation, I was a contributor in the Hill of Washington Insider Journal. The first year, started my own podcast. The second and third years, McCullough Report on America Out Loud Talk Radio. Published a best-selling book, Courage to Face COVID-19. I have 60 peer-reviewed publications in the illness itself. We needed top American doctors to step up, and so many of them headed for the sidelines. Where are the chiefs of medicine all over the country? Where's the chiefs of infectious disease? You don't see them on TV. You don't see them giving independent analyses. Well, where's the concern regarding the failure of the vaccines to contain the illness? Where's the concern over vaccine safety? How about advancing inpatient treatment protocols, outpatient treatment protocols? You don't see any of that. You don't see any of that from American doctors. They almost are acting as if COVID-19 doesn't exist out there.
Yeah, that's that's the thing that's concerning, is that I think a lot of people did get exposed throughout all this. I think a lot of people talk about values and they talk about doing what's right, but when it was tough to do so, I think, like you said, the men did get separated from the boys. And you saw, there's a lot of people that I was a fan of that I was kind of stunned that they didn't step up quicker, or they didn't, because now, and we talked about this recently on a Union of Unwanted, about how, people like Tim Pool and some of these other people are now a little bit more outspoken, but they do it now that it's easy, now that it's like, it's almost undeniable that, the facts. But we were saying these things, and specifically, you going around, doing interviews. I mean, we still talk about this today, how it was such a sign of your character when I had you booked for the Union of Unwanted on the same Monday that the Joe Rogan episode was released. And I remember telling the other guys on the show, I'm like, if he doesn't show up, I'm like, I will not be surprised, because his life's about to change. He was just interviewed on one of the biggest shows in the world. His email is probably just going crazy. I'm like, he might not even find the Zoom link if I send it to him. I'm like, so I'm just letting you guys know. I'm like, he might not show up, and it's not, his fault. I'm like, it's just he was on a huge show. And then when you showed up, everybody was like, wow, this is, and I think it was a reflection of your character, because it showed that you just want to get this message out. You're willing to talk to everybody and anybody who's willing to listen, and you would do, whatever it took to try to get this information out there, because you truly believed in it, and you're changing lives and creating a ripple effect. So I thought that was absolutely awesome. And but your life has changed a lot since the beginning of this. You've been attacked. What's the status on your license? I know there's lawsuits, all this stuff. You're dealing with a lot of stresses and headaches. And Uh, what are some of those things that you're dealing with, and is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Do you feel like you could only suppress the truth for so long, and now you're being verified? All the things you were saying.
That was a great summary. Honestly, it took me over the course of the last 3 years. I've gone on a podcast with a little high school kid from Germany, and he had 10 little boys on his podcast. And then I've gone on Joe Rogan. I set every record Joe Rogan had with all the remixes and clips, what have you. We estimate we reached half of the country, 160 million Americans, but it was way bigger than that. I've been on Daystar 4 times now, the largest Christian broadcasting network. Really blows away Rogan. They have 600 million paid subscribers. They estimate 3 people per household watch. They run reruns. That means each show is about 1.7 billion people. So the media impact that I've had is, I think, as formidable as any human being in the world right now. And our government authorities recognize this. They had FBI agents in Twitter, and there's no doubt about it. They were hunting me, hunting other doctors in my circle, CDC officers. Now the American Board of Internal Medicine has launched a COVID misinformation campaign without defining misinformation, without giving talking points. They did this in September of 2021, after the Health and Human Services and the White House launched the $13 billion COVID Community Corps program, where money poured into these agencies. The American Board of Internal Medicine teamed up with the marketing firm of Pfizer and Moderna, Weber Shandwick. This is how awful the conflict of interest and collusion is. ABIM is presenting with Weber Shandwick and Blackbird AI, an AI company they're using to hunt us, at the South by Southwest conference coming up in 2023, Richard Barron. So the American Board of Internal Medicine is not unbiased. They're not fair. They're clearly going past their bounds of doing credentialing. I have a perfect clinical track record in medicine and cardiology, 4 internal medicine exams down over 4 decades, 3 in cardiology. I'm one of the most published people in my field in the world in history, and yet a credentials committee of doctors who are not experienced with COVID-19, have no Senate experience, have no academic experience anywhere close to mine, have recommended that I be stripped of my medicine residency and fellowship without due process, violating every rule of evidence possible. This is completely off the rails. Now I have lawyers, and I have to mount an appeal to the same group that's made this determination. I'll be stripped of my ability to contract with insurances, my ability to maintain hospital privileges. I've now been terminated from 2 medical groups after having perfect clinical track records in both for no reason, specifically stated for no reason. Stripped of 2 editorships, 2 professors of medicine, of every NIH and pharmaceutical committee you could imagine. I've been the president of a major medical society, which has been dissolved. In each one of these events, there's no courtesy phone call, there's no discussion, there's no interchange of information, there's no due process. In fact, these are just what we describe in my book, Courage to Face COVID-19. These are strippings. They occur by certified mail or by email. And I haven't had a single chief of medicine, not a single chief of infectious disease, no one on the boards of any of these entities even give a courtesy phone call to pick up the phone and discuss the issue of vaccine safety. Complete dead silence as I'm being professionally dismantled. This is like a movie, Ricky. It's like a movie. And the only thing I can tell you is that, in a sense, it's a war. It's a war about information, about who holds the truth. I hold the medical truth. I've consistently brought that to the world for the last 3 years. And those who are attacking me do not. And the truth is like kryptonite. It doesn't matter what they try to do to me. They fall to the ground. I walk into a major medical center every day and people look to the ground. They're so ashamed of themselves.
Well, your book, Courage to Face COVID-19, I think as a doctor, it probably took less courage because it's something you've been doing your whole life. You love helping people. I think the courage really came in facing everybody else, is facing the government, all these people who are pushing propaganda, all the big tech companies that are censoring you. How has your perspective changed on the world? Because I feel like somebody like myself, I've always been, throughout the years. I started the show in 2013, and way before that, I've been going down rabbit holes of understanding how big pharma influences people. How any doctor who goes against the grain usually gets demonized by the community, and just corruption conspiracies have always been kind of my world. But you've been busy publishing books and helping people and publishing papers and really focus on your work. And was this a world that you didn't really pay much attention to? And has your worldview changed?
My worldview has definitely changed. I've now been greatly disappointed by leaders in medicine, greatly respected individuals now who haven't said a word about safety of vaccines. Some doctors who previously claimed to be drug safety experts, clinical trial experts, people who made their living, doing careful analyses of drug safety. One of them is the current FDA commissioner, Robert Califf, friend of mine. We went to a meeting together every year for 15 years. Now he's with no critical review is approving these vaccines. Most recently, the bivalent vaccines. They failed animal studies, had a false surrogate rise in antibodies in animals, didn't stop the infection. The FDA approved these for human use with no human data. Now, this is a person who I know he knows that is so wrong. It violates every bit of biopharmaceutical regulatory jurisprudence. He knows it's wrong. We know that individuals at the CDC, NIH, and FDA, as the deaths mount up after the vaccine, they know it's wrong to not stop this vaccine program. Executives at Pfizer, when Pfizer knew about 1,223 deaths with the vaccine, they know it's wrong not to pull it off the market after 5, 10, no more than 50. So people know that they're committing wrongdoing, and that's the reason why they're so silent. That's the reason why they won't discuss this. At the last U.S. Senate special session held in the Kennedy Caucus Room in the Russell Building, December 7th, 2022, included Anthony Fauci, Rochelle Walensky, Surgeon General Murthy, Coronavirus Task Force Coordinator Jha, and about a dozen health officials. None of them showed up. They didn't show up because they know they're wrong. They won't even discuss this because they know they're so deep into wrongdoing that their actions have needlessly cost human life, have basically caused unmeasurable injury, suffering, disability, loss of income. They know that they are so wrong. There's now, I think, for each one of those individuals, there's no return. They've had multiple opportunities to show up in the Senate, to discuss things, try to come out on the right side of history. And sadly, they haven't.
Well, I know DeSantis and Senator Johnson and other people are pushing to, expose the people who are at fault for this stuff. Are you hopeful that at some point we will see some justice, that maybe Dr. Fauci or some of the other characters that pushed the propaganda and were pushing these lies, and knowingly, like you said, because I think when you were interviewed with Del Bigtree from the High Wire, he had a great little line where he said, it was funny how fast we went from trust the science to we didn't know any better, or we didn't know, we didn't have enough information, or whatever it was. And it's so true, because at the time they're like, oh yeah, trust us, trust the science. And then next thing you know, they're like, well, we just didn't have all the information. We weren't sure. We weren't certain. So, but are you hopeful that eventually, with you guys keep pushing at this, and you guys are going to eventually hopefully see some people accountable for what they put us through?
I'm not. I think the deposition that Anthony Fauci has already given in the Missouri Attorney General case sets the tone. The tone is over 170 times he said he can't recall. So when individuals in corporate crimes and government crimes, when they're called for depositions, their go-to statement is they can't recall. And we're going to see a tremendous reluctance to release any documents, heavy redaction of documents. We're going to see early retirements. People delay and try to continue to escape justice. And we'll see this. There won't be a single person who comes forward and gives America a straight shot at the truth here. They're too deep into it. Our CDC, as of December 9th, 2022, admits to 15,732 deaths after the vaccine, a huge fraction occurring just within a few deaths taken. That's what they admit to. That is a large number of Americans. That's more than what we saw in 9/11 and all these disasters. And that's underreported by best estimates in FDA testimony. It's actually, that's where the number comes from. They're underestimated by a factor of 30. That means the real number is 450,000 Americans. That number is so big, there won't be a single official who's going to step forward and give America any clean information on these vaccines. None. And it's a government program. Remember, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Novavax, they're just the suppliers. The vaccines themselves are made by biodefense contractors and not even made by these companies. And so this is a U.S. government operation. DARPA, the research arm of the military, announced messenger RNA vaccines in 2012. It's on their website. You can check it out today on the ADEPT P3 program. This has been a government operation from the beginning. There will be no government admissions on wrongdoing here. It's not going to happen because it's been too long in the making. There have been so much money invested in this, and it's been such a modern American tragedy to ruin the health of so many Americans now who are stuck with the genetic vaccines in their body. My heart is broken.
Well, I think it's probably one of the greatest tragedies in human history, because you look at even the world wars, they involved a lot of countries, but there's some countries that were neutral. There were some countries that weren't involved. This event is, it's probably one of the greatest events in human history because every country, the whole planet was involved in it, and everybody was, a part of it and have some type of story or response or something that that some negative effect to the situation. I know there's some smaller countries and even states in the US where they were less affected because they, but they don't talk about those countries or those states that often because that would be an example of how it was blown out of proportion. But you're starting to see certain countries come around. I was born in Portugal, and my parents still watch Portuguese news and whatnot. And my mother was just telling me recently that Portugal was one of those, the people there just kind of go along with the herd, whatever they have a trust in government that that Americans will be a little bit more skeptical. The Portuguese kind of just go with whatever is recommended, and so everybody was getting vaccinated, everybody was wearing masks, they were doing all that, and so I was kind of surprised to hear from my mother that Portugal is now seeing the heart inflammation in younger people, and now they're not recommending it for younger people, and you're starting to hear that in countries. Is that a trend in the right direction? And do you think that little by little, eventually, it's just going to be known that, hey, maybe you shouldn't be taking this vaccine at all?
I think that's going to happen. I don't think the governments are going to pull the vaccines off the market, even though on December 7th, 2022, I officially called for the vaccines to be pulled off the market in the U.S. Senate. Andrew Bridgen, in the UK member of parliament, 2 days later, he called for a British withdrawal of all the vaccines. Christine Anderson, EU member of parliament, Germany, same thing, pulled the vaccines off the market. World Council for Health represents 70 organizations worldwide. June 11th, 2022, called for global withdrawal of the vaccines off the market. I don't think there's going to be a single government that's going to pull these off the market. It's just going to be generally known that if people keep taking them, the human body will continue to be damaged and diseased and disabled, and people will die. So I just think this general knowledge will seep in, and it's just so sad for the next person who takes one of these vaccines, or parents taking their children in and getting the vaccine. The child has no idea that these are genetic vaccines. They can't get out of the human body. They continue to install genetic code that's doing long-term damage and just destroying the immune system of the body. The vaccines go into the brain and invariably affect the brain, damage the heart, cause blood clotting. We now see worldwide rates of fertility dropping. 2 studies showing the vaccines drop male fertility. The biodistribution study, done by Pfizer showing it goes to mammalian ovaries. So both male and female fertility is affected. Since the vaccine has been rolled out, fertility is plummeting. I mean, this is just a worldwide disaster, and it's self-administered. If everybody just stepped up and said no more, this entire program would just crumble and the world could start to pick up the pieces from a mass vaccination debacle.
Well, I think it was such a big operation. I couldn't watch TV with my kids without seeing a vaccine commercial and, a celebrity trying to push vaccines onto people. I mean, it was just like it was coming at you from all angles. And it was kind of surreal because typically I'm against pharmaceutical companies advertising on TV. As you know, and I'm sure most of the listeners know, we're one of two countries that do that. It's us and New Zealand. But I'm almost like, this might be worse because they didn't do any advertising, but you were hearing it from everybody else. So, you were hearing it from celebrities, you were hearing it from athletes, you were hearing it, it was coming. And a lot of the younger people, they, for some reason, will listen to a celebrity that they idolize. They'll listen to a musician that they idolize, and they were coming at them from cultural directions, from all these celebrities and people just kind of saying, "Get the vaccine, and they just kept regurgitating stuff, which was hilarious because eventually I got kicked off YouTube, which was a matter of time, so I wasn't too surprised about that, but. I was getting kicked off YouTube for having people on like you and Dr. Robert Malone and Dr. Jessica Rose and Dr. Scott Jennings and all these people on and for medical misinformation. I'm like, a lot of these people have PhDs, they study medicine, and you're saying that it's misinformation, but yet you're letting celebrities on TV that have never studied medicine, that have no PhDs, no resume in this field, just basically state a bunch of nonsense that isn't true and isn't verifiable, saying get the vaccine and you'll stop the spread, all this stuff. Like, so much of it made no sense. I mean, even wearing a mask, people are like, I just don't want to get sick, so I'm wearing a mask. I'm like, that doesn't even make any logical sense. I'm like, you're preventing getting other people sick, but it doesn't stop you from getting sick if you're wearing a mask. Like, all these things that just made very little sense. And it kind of made me a little sad about the state of the universe, because I think to myself, how many people just lack critical thinking skills, and how we're taught at such a young age to kind of respect the expert, and it's worked in the advantage of the expert, because what happens is they can say anything, and even if it doesn't make any sense, people just go along with it. And you would see it over and over again. Fauci would get caught lying, but because he's an expert and he's on TV, we put him on this pedestal that, well, he must be telling the truth, or he must know better than me, even though what he's saying doesn't seem to make sense. He's more knowledgeable than I am. And I think, for better or worse, people are now becoming much more skeptical about the experts. They're going to, maybe do their own research. I think there was a lot more faith in pharmaceutical companies and the experts, for lack of a better term, prior to 2020. If any good has come out of all this, is that I hope, as a general, whole, that people will do a little bit of their own research before just taking their word for it.
I agree with you. And what we've seen is basically people violating the laws. Biopharmaceuticals are subject to, their promotion is subject to the Truth in Advertising Act, the Landman Act, the U.S. Drug and Cosmetic Act. No one can go on TV and say a drug is safe and effective. We have to give the risks and the benefits. They have to be presented in fair balance. So we've had two presidents break the law. We've had all the government officials break the law. The ads you see on TV for vaccines are either by HHS, CDC, Pfizer, Moderna. They're all breaking the law. Because you'll see a commercial for the vaccines, it'll say safe and effective, take a vaccine to protect your grandparents. That's a false claim. And then the next ad will be for Humira, and it'll say Humira treats psoriasis, but it has these side effects, and they give the disclaimers. So Americans know that there's fraudulent advertising going on right now, false promotion. And you know that you can pick up the consent form for the vaccine. It only lists one benefit. The benefits section of the consent form is the shortest part of the COVID-19 vaccine form. And it says the vaccines have been, past tense, shown to reduce the risk of COVID, period. There's no claim that they protect others, which they don't. They don't stop transmission. There's no claim that they make the disease less severe. They don't reduce hospitalization and death. Never been shown in a randomized, controlled, placebo-controlled trial with hospitalization death as a primary endpoint. So people are basically intentionally making false claims. And this is all coming from the COVID Community Core program. In 2021, HHS and the White House, in this mantra, we can do this, they floated out billions and billions of dollars to the media, to Hollywood, to the NFL, to the churches, religious groups, Black and Hispanic groups, all the medical societies. The US government money flowed in a massive scale to basically bribe the entire world to promote these vaccines. And so to make matters worse, Pfizer Moderna hired a marketing firm, Weber Shandwick, and Weber Shandwick came up with a plan called Plan VX. They got in every large company in the United States, and they were promoting the vaccines and lockdowns and mandates, and promoted this idea that you can't return to work unless you've taken a vaccine, or you have to work from home. That was all Weber Shandwick. Weber Shandwick is now fully embedded with so many different aspects of the pandemic response. Senator Rand Paul was outraged. He sent a letter to the CDC and said, why do you have Weber Shandwick, a marketing group for Pfizer Moderna, inside the CDC marketing vaccines to the Vaccine and Respiratory Diseases Office in the CDC? Why did the CDC actually pay Weber Shandwick over $50 million to do these marketing efforts? Americans should be really raising a red flag. Why are Pfizer and Moderna, why are they pushed so hard and we don't hear about Johnson & Johnson and Novavax? It's because the companies have advertising units within the CDC. That's how corrupt this is. We have 4 vaccines on the US market. There must be a winner, there must be a loser, there must be something. How come nobody cares about what's the best vaccine? What's the safest vaccine? The US government hasn't even tried to describe this for Americans. We're hearing things that are completely implausible. Our White House coordinator, Ashish Jha, has said that we'll have annual COVID-19 vaccines. Wait a minute. None of the vaccines last 6 months. How can we have annual vaccines? If you're going to have a vaccine, its only theoretical benefit is a couple months. It would need every 6 month shots. Americans aren't falling for it, Ricky. There's only 13% of Americans that are even taking these boosters now. Parents are beginning to withdraw completely. On my Substack today, Courageous Discourse, I give the Kaiser Family Foundation Monitor report that clearly shows American parents are starting to pull out of this whole vaccine schedule now. Now that the CDC has put COVID-19 vaccines in the childhood schedule, American parents have said, listen, we've lost our trust.
Yeah, they're pulling out. But the part that is concerning and makes me a little upset is that how there's, for some people, because I know some people, I know people personally who have said, oh, I've got the vaccine and I'm completely fine. And I'm always like, well, you're still alive now, but we don't know what health issues you could have in a couple of years that could be, the vaccine could be a contributor to and whatnot. But there's a lot of people who were tricked into getting it, tricked into giving their children it, and some of these conferences that you've been at where you see these kids who were either a part of their trial or parents who gave it, and now they're disabled forever. I mean, it just pulls at your heartstrings because you know that in their heart, they were just trying to do what was right. And they were just trying to listen to, the recommendations by what they thought were trustworthy experts. And those people, they're never going to get their lives back, So it's like, for me, it is a positive thing that people aren't getting boosted as much, and little by little people are losing faith in the vaccine, or maybe even all vaccines. But I feel bad for the people really in the heat of all of this that really just wanted their lives back, and they were told this lie that if you just get vaccinated, we all get to go back to work, we all get to go back to going out to eat, we get to go to the grocery store, we get to do everything normal again if you just get vaccinated. And they felt like they're doing their part. And now their lives will never be the same again.
You're right. On my Twitter feed today, it was just released last night, a great mini documentary called Silent No More. And it came from New Zealand and shows the vaccine injured, particularly the movement disorders. And they have person in wheelchair after wheelchair with a vaccine injury victim where they can't control this, what's called hemiballismic a rhythmic tremor of the hands. It's really striking. They're in wheelchairs. They can't walk anymore. In New Zealand, 90% of people took the vaccines. They had a program called No Jab, No Job. So they stripped people of their employment if they didn't take the vaccines. And they've been absolutely destroyed. So this group came together. They just tried to have a conference in an open square, and the New Zealand police showed up. We're taking pictures for information gathering purposes. They were all of them. They had a helicopter overhead. There was a poor young man. He lost his life with myocarditis. His parents were watching on. This is an unbelievable assault on medical freedom, on people's individual autonomy. It's an assault on people's health. You're right. People took the vaccines because they thought they'd be able to return to normal. And sadly, some people are destroyed. They can't go to normal. They can't even walk anymore. There's people with blood clots on blood thinners. I was called last night by a radiologist. Another patient of mine took the vaccine. It's 18 months later, still has blood clots. They've shot to the lungs. She can't breathe. I called her last night. I mean, this is an absolutely miserable medical outrage. And the only thing we can hope is people just say, stop taking these, and we'll try to let the human body recover. But my heart is broken at this point in time. There's been 2 letters now that have gone U.S. Senate, and then a bicameral letter went to Lloyd Austin of the military. He said, listen, the vaccines don't work. They're not safe. Drop the vaccines and restore all the servicemen that have been discharged with back pay. And Lloyd Austin has come out and said, well, the vaccines actually saved the military, and without the vaccines, it'd be worse. We had Lieutenant Colonel Long, who is a doctor. Lloyd Austin isn't. She is a flight surgeon. She presented in the Senate panel that more servicemen have died with the vaccine than have died with COVID. And sadly, the ones who died with the vaccine are young fighting soldiers. The deaths with COVID were in senior, administrators with health problems, who would have been in trouble anyway. This has been a travesty. It's damaged and weakened our military. It's destroyed our ranks of our employed citizens, destroyed healthcare. I'm an example. I'm a top doctor. I've lost 2 jobs now over the past 3 years. Now I'm really fighting for my life professionally. There's not a single person who'll even talk to me and engage in a discussion on this. Doctors have shamefully taken these vaccines, and they're ashamed of what they've done to their bodies. They're ashamed that they've coerced their patients into it. Things couldn't be worse right now. I think we're at an all-time low.
Yeah, it's damn it. I wanted to end this show on a positive note, but there goes that. It's weird because I go back and forth too. I mean, I do feel like a lot of people have woken up to this spiritual battle, this good versus evil that's going on. I think terms like depopulation and social engineering were terms that you would only hear in alternative media, shows like mine and many other shows that have done great work throughout the years. But it's they're now starting to become normal terms that people use and understand and are taking much more seriously. And for me, I think that's a positive thing. It definitely. But when you're starting to see, and we've saw the last couple of years, athletes passing out. There's videos after videos and videos of just sudden deaths, and I know that documentary sudden deaths is going around, and people are watching that and seeing a lot of that too. But you're seeing it everywhere. And the last couple of years, young celebrities that have been like, a lot of people weren't even contributing to the vaccine. It's like, well, why? To me, because you lied about the research. The research was very poorly done, if done at all. Like Dr. Brooke, or not doctor, but Brooke Jackson, the whistleblower. She's been on my show a bunch, and she's awesome and being outspoken, and many others have been outspoken about the trials. But you've been lied to. You've done all this. I mean, to me, it's I keep going back and forth. I have this internal dilemma where it's like, I feel like the world's wakening up at maybe a slow rate, but at least a progressive rate in the right direction. But when you see all the people who are having issues and all the people that they possibly harmed, and I'd like to get your opinion, but I think that I think I've heard you talk about this. I don't know which show, maybe it was with Ryan from Last American Vagabond, about how if you have any health issues whatsoever, the vaccine could contribute to making those things worse. So it'd be very hard to figure out if the vaccine is the reason why you're having what most of the time people are going to think are not related health issues.
That's true, particularly among the elderly. And this is an advantage of subscribing to my Substack, Courageous Discourse. I go through these peer-reviewed papers. Recently up was loss of hearing. The elderly who are already risk for having, loss of hearing, severe sensory neural hearing loss after the vaccine. Clearly, the risk is doubled in those elderly people who ill-advised took the vaccine. Same thing with blindness, both optical and optic artery-related blindness. Fortunately, that would reverse with steroids if it's diagnosed promptly. We know cognitive decline, dementias advance rapidly because the vaccines get into the brain, and this has been shown by autopsy. These are proven medical conclusions. Progression of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, myocardial infarction, ischemic cardiomyopathy, stroke, myocarditis, blood clots, Guillain-Barré syndrome. There's over 1,200 peer-reviewed manuscripts on all the problems the vaccines cause. So what I've said in a mini documentary with cardiologist Asim Malhotra in the UK, whose father died of the vaccine, we've said now the next death that happens, next sudden death in someone who's previously healthy, it is the vaccine until proven otherwise. And if the family, it's their responsibility to come out and say they didn't take the vaccine. If the family doesn't come out and everybody is shamefully silent, assume it's the vaccine until proven otherwise. And what we'll probably hear today, a few more deaths will come in of young people, prominent people. It'll continue to happen until individuals finally have that intellectual courage to step up and admit that they individually, their families, and as a society have made a giant mistake of taking genetic vaccines into the human body. It's been a giant mistake. The vaccines are the genetic code for the lethal Wuhan spike protein. It sounds bad. It is bad. There's not a single person who ever should have taken these in their body.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely guilty until proven innocent. I think when you've been constantly lying to people, then you're at the point where you have to almost assume it's vaccine related unless you can prove otherwise. Future projects, what are you doing? Can listeners do to help you out? I know that you have a new, is it a supplement company and dealing with vitamins and stuff like that, or you're a health company, right? That you started recently?
I took a position as an advisor. I'm the chief scientific officer of the Wellness Company. It's a nationwide alternative healthcare company, initially focusing on nutraceuticals and supplements. They have telemedicine for brief acute care issues. It's a cell phone app, very inexpensive. I think it's $10 a month. A doctor's visit, I think, is $60. So anybody can get healthcare now in the nation on a cash basis. They can get exemptions from the vaccines, which is wonderful. They have protocols to try to help detox from the vaccine. So Wellness Company is very exciting. I've started a podcast called The Counter Jab. I've taken so many jabs, I need to counter jab. Doing that with best-selling author John Leake. Courageous Discourse, Substack, doing great. Remember, I'm always on America Out Loud Talk Radio, the McCullough Report, Saturday or Sunday, and then I answer his questions on Wednesdays with Malcolm Out Loud. I'll continue to be a force. I don't think at this point in time anybody in the government can touch me. They can try. I'm just too strong in the media. Today I'm going to do about 8 TV shows. There's nobody, Ricky, that can match my productivity in the federal government. My name is better known right now than any U.S. government official worldwide. So there's clearly a battle of strength right now. The other side's losing. And when I went on with Tucker Carlson the very first time, Dr. McCullough, are you afraid of people going after you? I looked at the camera. I said, bring it on. Who in the world's going to touch me? My analyses have been pinpoint. I cite the literature every single time. I've been honest with America with the prognosis. I've also had the intellectual honesty to change my interpretation as the virus changes and the data has evolved. There's nobody who's done that on the government side. And not only that, the doctors in my circles and scientists are growing every day. So it keeps growing. The number of media people, Ricky, you're in a great group in the media now. It includes you and former CNN commentator Naomi Wolf, Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, the podcaster Joe Rogan. it keeps going and going and going. Tommy Knightley, and also is a world-class podcaster. Tommy Kerrigan, I'm going to go on with him next. It's superstar after superstar. In the music community, Eric Clapton, you can't get any better than that. I mean, we're talking about superstars, and now we have Elon Musk and Twitter. And, Musk at some point in time is going to want to have a conversation. I mean, I'm the only one in the Joe Rogan Experience who gets more downloads and interest than Musk, and he knows it. He's just let me back on Twitter. My account's growing faster than anybody's account on Twitter. So at some point in time, even he needs to come around. But first and foremost, I think what's going to happen is we need to clean house at the CDC, NIH, and FDA. We need to install competent people. We need to restore integrity to the country, and we need to say we're sorry. I am personally sorry to each and every person who lost their life with COVID. I'm sad we couldn't reach out and care for every single person. And my heart is broken for all of those who are injured, disabled, and sadly for the loved ones who've lost family members due to the vaccine. This is a human tragedy. It's bigger in scale than war, and we need to start acting like it. So thank you so much for having me on the show. We're going to have to leave it here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'll put all the links in the show description. Thank you so much for always staying so humble and all the work you're doing. And we'll talk again, hopefully in the near future. Have a great holidays, great Christmas, and hopefully I'll see you in 2023, Dr.
You too. Thanks, Ricky.
Take care.
Bye.